Somebody is lying, and I can't wait to find out who. Nafisa Collier, if what you said is true, just make sure you got that on recording. Hey, Cathy, if what you said is true, just make sure you got that on a recording.
Wnba Commissioner Cathy Engelbert faced the media, promising accountability and change. But instead of answers, fans got rehearsed lines and dodged questions, especially when it came to Nafisa Collier's explosive accusations. Claims that didn't just shake the league, but directly targeted its brightest star, Caitlin Clark. You could tell Engelbert wasn't responding, she was just trying to survive the storm. But here's the real question: why keep spinning the truth when players, coaches, and journalists are exposing it live? Today, we're breaking down exactly how Engelbert got caught in her own web of deception and why NBA Commissioner Adam Silver might be stepping in to fix the chaos she created. Should Engelbert be fired? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.
Let me repeat this, you saw it in my statement, but I have the utmost respect for Nafisa and for every single player in our league. They are at the center of everything we do. I was disheartened to hear that some players feel the league and me personally do not care about them or listen to them, and if the players in the W don't feel appreciated and valued by the league, then we have to do better and I have to do better.
How did Cathy Engelbert ever think she could talk her way out of a scandal everyone was already watching unravel in real time? The second she stepped up to that podium before the finals, the entire room shifted. Reporters weren't there for niceties, they came for answers. But instead of giving them honesty, Engelbert leaned on the oldest PR move in the book: speak softly, act concerned, and hope the crowd forgets why they're furious. Her opening words? A promise to do better. But at this point, that phrase means nothing, especially coming from someone accused of turning her back on the very players she claims to stand behind.
Cathy, Malika Andrews, ESPN. I just wanted to get some clarity on some of the specifics that Nafisa Collier said about your conversation that you had that was previously private. Did you in fact say that, quote, players should be on their knees thanking their lucky stars for the rights deal that I got them?
Everything about the setup looked carefully staged. Engelbert thanked the media, praised the postseason, and painted herself as a leader focused on growth and progress. For a brief moment, it almost sounded convincing, until she mentioned the controversy surrounding Nafisa Collier's remarks. That's when the polished performance began to crumble. Engelbert brushed off Collier's statements as inaccurate, but never actually denied the most damning part: the claim that she told Collier Caitlin Clark should be more grateful. That silence said more than any denial ever could. Instead of addressing it head on, she tried to bury it under vague talk of miscommunication and ongoing dialogue.
I think what's most helpful is to focus on, I have been in touch with Nafisa. We've exchanged texts. We're talking next week. So I think obviously a lot of reporting, a lot of inaccuracy about what I said or what I didn't say. And I will tell you, I highly respect the players. There's a lot of emotion and passion going on right now because we're in collective bargaining, we're in the WNBA finals, and so I'll leave it there. I mean, I'm just obviously disheartened.
It sounded less like a league commissioner addressing her players and fans, and more like a CEO delivering a quarterly report. The longer Cathy Engelbert talked, the faster her credibility faded. Her voice was measured, almost mechanical, like every line had been practiced in front of a mirror. When a reporter pushed for a straight yes or no, she didn't budge. Instead, she dodged with talk of growth and momentum, as if business buzzwords could drown out the truth. Each response felt disconnected, like she was talking about data charts, not the players and emotions driving the league she's supposed to lead.
I'm a human too. I have a family. I have 2 kids who are devastated by these comments, and so all I'll say is just, you know, it's obviously been a tough week. And I just think there's a lot of inaccuracy out there.
The contrast between Engelbert and Collier couldn't have been more striking. During her exit interview, Nafisa Collier didn't sound like a polished spokesperson. She sounded like someone who'd finally had enough. No filters, no rehearsed lines, just pure honesty from a player fed up with being ignored. That raw emotion highlighted exactly what Engelbert was missing. Collier spoke from real experience, while Engelbert hid behind scripted lines. Fans can always feel the difference, and in that moment, everyone watching knew instantly who was being real.
That's a mentality driving our league from the top. We go to battle every day to protect a shield that doesn't value us. The league believes it succeeds despite its players, not because of them. We have the best players in the world. We have the best fans in the world. But right now, we have the worst leadership in the world.
By the third round of questions, even the calmest reporters were visibly frustrated. They tried rephrasing, pressing harder, hoping Cathy Engelbert would finally drop the PR mask and just be honest. But she didn't. Every answer circled back to the same lifeless talking points. We're reviewing. We support everyone. We're focused on moving forward. It all sounded mechanical, completely disconnected from the situation, like someone describing a house on fire while insisting everything's fine because there's a meeting scheduled to talk about it.
You expressed that you were disheartened by the characterization of your conversation with Nafisa Collier. Just again, seeking clarity. Did you in fact say that Caitlin Clark should be grateful she makes $16 million off the court because without the platform that the WNBA gives her, she wouldn't make anything? And do you actually feel that way, that without this platform, players like Caitlin Clark wouldn't be making what they do off the court?
Then came the line that summed up the entire press conference. Cathy Engelbert proudly declared, "I'm not a quitter." To her, it was meant to sound powerful, but to players and fans, it landed completely wrong. No one was asking her to walk away. They were asking her to own up. Instead, she cast herself as the victim of unfair criticism, a misunderstood leader under fire for simply doing her job. But that was never the issue. The problem wasn't her composure. It was her pride. People weren't upset that she stayed calm. They were frustrated that she refused to take accountability.
Caitlin has been a transformational player in this league. She's been a great representative of the game. She's brought in tens of millions of new fans to the game. Proud of what she's put on the court. Unfortunately, the injuries held her back from a full season this year. But again, I'm not going to get into every point, counterpoint. It's not productive here. We're here to celebrate the WNBA finals. I think what Indiana just did was amazing with all the injuries they had and the everything they faced this year, bringing that to a Game 5 in overtime. But yeah, as I said, there's a lot of inaccuracies reported out.
That's when the entire energy in the room shifted. For everyone watching, it became painfully obvious. Cathy Engelbert's biggest mistake wasn't the spin itself. It was pretending no one could see through it. Before the press conference even wrapped up, players were already firing off tweets, raw, unfiltered, and far from supportive. The disconnect between Engelbert's polished statements and what players were actually living grew wider with every passing minute. She didn't just lose control of the story, she lost the trust of the very people she's supposed to lead. And heading into a crucial CBA season, that trust means more than any corporate deal ever could. It's the glue holding the league together, and right now, it's coming apart. What was meant to calm the chaos ended up exposing just how deep the divide truly runs. Reporters didn't leave feeling like they'd covered a simple press event. They walked away knowing they had just witnessed a turning point in the WNBA's balance of power.
A trend we've seen this season has been the increase in injuries. According to the 9 Basketball's database of injuries, injuries were up 36% this year. And even in the WNBA's own numbers that were shared with Bloomberg, they say they were up 29%. So amid change to officiating and what could come of that, I guess, what is the league prepared to do to address this increase in injuries going forward?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. Obviously, injuries are the worst part of sports in my view, especially injuries that occur, due to the physicality. I think our game is bigger, faster, stronger, certainly even in the last 5 years since I've come in to the league. I think the training, the development, the strength and conditioning, the nutrition, everything that's going into the level of the players that a lot of our fans like is also adding to that physicality. And that's why I said in my prepared remarks, we have to determine where the players want that line to be, because I think they want some of that, but obviously we don't want injuries. And
the league didn't just react, it exploded. The backlash spread faster than the WNBA office could craft another carefully worded statement. Players who usually avoided public controversy were suddenly speaking out loud and clear. It was like every voice across the league hit the same breaking point at once. Enough is enough. When Cathy Engelbert sidestepped questions and brushed off Nafisa Collier's story, it lit a fire that couldn't be contained. The players, the ones living the grind, wearing the jerseys, and fueling the league's growing spotlight, decided silence was no longer an option.
The players that are driving this change, and regardless of how it's said, I think the messaging stands the same from the players' perspective is things need to change, reffing needs to change, leadership needs to change. I think, our league is at a spot that it hasn't been in the past 10 years. Like, we're growing exponentially, and we need change to mirror that. And I think where the players see the league going is different than where leadership sees the league going, and somehow we need to see that align. And I think the CBA negotiations will help hopefully get us there.
Lexi Hull was one of the first to step forward. Her message wasn't long, it wasn't flashy, but it hit straight to the point. She stood behind Nafisa Collier and called out the lack of accountability from the league's leadership. Fans immediately noticed how intentional her words were. Hull didn't sound like a player afraid of league politics. She spoke like someone who's watched teammates get overlooked one too many times. And coming from a player known for her professionalism and composure, that statement carried real weight. It sparked something bigger. Soon after, Aja Wilson, Elena Del Don, and even seasoned veterans who've seen commissioners come and go began voicing their support for Collier's message. Coaches joined in too. Stephanie White, normally careful with her words, echoed that same frustration. When coaches, people whose careers depend on front office approval, start speaking out, you know it's deeper than a disagreement. This wasn't about one incident. It was the moment the league finally admitted what everyone had been feeling. The trust between the players and their commissioner was crumbling.
She's in the way of our growth and our development as a league, not just on the player side, but on the league side. She's not good for basketball. That's what Nafisa got. Nobody questioned Cathy Engelbert's business acumen now, because we know she knows business. And you see the average player salaries, it was $28,000 when they first started. It's about, over 130 now. You got salaries over $200,000 now, some of them. But that's not enough.
Moments of unity like this don't happen often in the WNBA. Usually, players tread carefully, avoiding statements that might risk fines, endorsements, or even playing time. But this time, the caution was gone. The tone across social media was unmistakably unified. They weren't asking for much, just honesty, respect, and leadership grounded in the reality they live every single day. Most didn't name Cathy Engelbert outright, but everyone knew exactly who leadership referred to. Their public support for Nafisa Collier wasn't just solidarity, it was a warning shot to the league office that trust had officially been broken. And that frustration didn't stop there. Long-standing anger over officiating started to resurface. Players began linking Engelbert's dismissive response to the Collier-Clark controversy with deeper issues of fairness and player safety. Complaints about inconsistent calls are nothing new, but this time it symbolized something far greater: respect. This wasn't just about missed fouls or unfair technicals. It was about players realizing their health and value were being treated as less important than protecting the league's image. Engelbert's silence only made that divide impossible to ignore.
At the end of the day, you have a star player in the league saying the commissioner, this individual, is in the way of all of us. And that was her statement. I believe she should hand in her resignation.
Even media voices who normally steer clear of WNBA politics started weighing in. Stephen A. Smith questioned Cathy Engelbert's awareness of what players are really going through. Dave Portnoy took it a step further, accusing the league office of hiding behind PR statements instead of taking real accountability. With every public criticism, the pressure mounted. The growing narrative across sports media stopped portraying Engelbert as a calm, steady leader and started painting her as a growing liability. That shift is dangerous for any league, but especially for one still fighting to prove its stability to sponsors and investors. Fans watching all of this unfold weren't waiting for another carefully crafted response. They were waiting to see what kind of future the players themselves would demand next.
Cathy Engelbert credit for the TV deals that she has struck, or does all this kind of lead to her demise?
No, I give her no credit for anything she struck, because as far as I know, it was a struggling league until this new class of rookies came out. And I mean, listen, this may say a lot about my WNBA knowledge. If you threw Aja Wilson's name at me like 2 years ago, I'm not sure I really would have known who that is. I certainly wouldn't have known who Nafisa Collier is. Like, yes, I knew the bigger stars, and those are as big, but like I'm talking to Diana Taurasi, but I wasn't locked in on this league. Everything has changed.
What happens when the WNBA's biggest issue reaches a point where only the NBA can fix it? That's exactly where the situation is heading. What began with Cathy Engelbert's dodgy press conference has evolved far beyond player frustration. It's now touching the core of money, power, and control, and that territory belongs to NBA Commissioner Adam Silver. Most fans don't realize it, but nearly half of the WNBA isn't actually governed by its own franchises. It's overseen by the NBA's Board of Governors. That means Engelbert doesn't just answer to the players or team owners. She ultimately answers to Silver himself, the most powerful figure in professional basketball. Her entire position exists because the NBA allows it, and right now, that reality might be the most uncomfortable truth in all of women's basketball.
Engelbert is being made to, or quite literally is, and sometimes that's a matter of perception from ownership. Players have said how they feel. Then yes, I would imagine that her job would be in peril here. That though will have to come from the Board of Governors. That would have to come from NBA leadership, because as I understand, Cathy Engelbert, when she was named the first ever WNBA commissioner, reports directly to Adam Silver and his team.
This connection between the leagues is more important than most people realize. The WNBA may operate on a smaller scale, but it's deeply woven into the same billion-dollar machine that drives TV deals, sponsorships, and global branding for the NBA. Right now, both leagues are tied together through a massive joint media deal worth around $2.2 billion. If investors start viewing the women's side as unstable, that doubt doesn't stay contained. It bleeds straight into the NBA's image too. For years, Adam Silver has emphasized the idea of alignment between the two leagues. But alignment works both ways. When the WNBA thrives, he gets to showcase it as proof that inclusion fuels profit and progress. But when the league's leadership becomes a controversy, every polished quote about growth turns into yet another PR mess the NBA has to clean up.
There are conversations that I'm sure the league and also the NBA leadership is having, because again, we're in the WNBA finals. We talked about NBA preseason coming, and this is probably, if not the biggest, one of the biggest stories in basketball in the US right now.
Behind the scenes, that's exactly what's starting to unfold. The discussion has quietly shifted from wondering if Cathy Engelbert can rebuild her authority to questioning when Adam Silver might have to step in and stabilize things before the next collective bargaining cycle explodes. If the players' union enters those negotiations without trusting the commissioner, every clause and contract detail turns into a battleground. A league built on partnership can't survive when its players feel disrespected by the very person meant to represent them. And with frustration spilling across social media and sports talk shows, Silver's inner circle understands this isn't just a minor leadership issue. It's a full-blown reputation crisis tied directly to revenue, sponsorships, and broadcast deals.
I want to follow up though and ask, I think that the growing sentiment around the league, right, is that players, they feel that the right leadership isn't in place right now in the league office. So do you feel that you're still the right voice and expect to continue to be commissioner beyond this CBA?
There's a pattern here, and history proves it. In professional sports, top executives don't always lose their jobs because of poor performance on paper. More often, they're pushed out when public perception collapses. Once sponsors, networks, or players start losing confidence, leadership changes fast to protect the brand's value. That's exactly the kind of quiet discussion circulating through the WNBA's front offices right now. Sources say high-level meetings have grown tense, with key decisions being postponed until after the finals to avoid stealing the spotlight from the games themselves. Everyone understands the timing, but they also know that pretending the problem doesn't exist only makes it worse. The phrase floating around behind the scenes? Protect the momentum, which in plain terms means the NBA wants to reassure advertisers and investors that women's basketball is still a safe, profitable bet.
Certainly, that's another inaccurate statement out there that everybody reads and takes clickbait on. Obviously, I've never been a quitter. I'm entering my 40th year, actually this month, in business. Never been a quitter, never shied away from tough situations. I think leadership, the cream always rises to the top, and I've always been someone who believes in the fact that if there's things we need to fix, we're going to fix them. If there are things the players have a perspective on that they don't like that we're doing or I'm doing, we'll fix them, Malika.
That's why talk of Adam Silver stepping in no longer sounds like rumor. It's starting to feel inevitable. At this stage, the debate isn't about whether Cathy Engelbert deserves praise for the WNBA's growth. It's about power, who truly holds it, and who's being revealed as replaceable. Silver stands in a rare position. One decisive move from him could completely reshape the league's image and direction. For fans, this so-called unmasking isn't just about seeing Engelbert's missteps. It's about realizing she's not the ultimate decision-maker she's portrayed herself to be. Her fate now lies in the hands of a commissioner who values control and consistency far more than personal loyalty.
Suggested Caitlin Clark should be grateful for what she makes off the court? That's preposterous. Did you miss the Iowa years? Clark is the Tiger Woods tide that lifts all boats, and we know this show is proof. The highest rating we have ever had followed one of her games at Iowa. The WNBA has benefited from her presence more than the other way around, even though this year for Caitlin Clark was essentially lost.
For players and fans alike, that realization is sparking a quiet sense of optimism. If Adam Silver does step in, many believe it could finally mean leadership that stands with the players instead of over them. It paints a picture of a league where frustration isn't brushed aside with rehearsed PR lines, but met with real accountability and change. As the WNBA approaches a defining 2025 season, this potential shift could completely reshape who holds power in women's basketball and what kind of culture it wants to build next. With Cathy Engelbert's credibility fading fast, all eyes are now on what comes after her. The excitement surrounding the future isn't about slogans or flashy sponsorships. It's about removing the one obstacle standing between progress and fairness. And right now, that obstacle is Engelbert herself. Players have already shown they can elevate the game without her guidance. What they need is someone who truly listens and values their voices. Fans recognize it too. The rise of the Indiana Fever and the impact of Caitlin Clark have made one thing clear. The future belongs to authenticity, not bureaucracy. Lexi Hull, Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell. This new generation is the blueprint for real leadership. The WNBA doesn't need more promises to improve. It needs people ready to deliver. So what do you think? Should Engelbert be replaced? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe and click the video on your screen to keep watching.